What if the greatest demon in your life didn't have horns, but wore the face of the one you trust the most? They walk among us, silent, disguised, not as grotesque figures, but as ordinary people. Lucifer's greatest deception was never showing up with fire and brimstone, but teaching his servants to hide beneath human skin. Ancient apocryphal manuscripts warned, the enemy does not come from outside, but is born within the inner circle. What was once dismissed as legend now appears as the very first sign of a human demon. That sign is invisible manipulation. It's not advice. It's not a suggestion. It's a hidden string pulled across your mind. They twist words, reshape memories, and bend your very perception of reality. Anyone who has stood beside such a person knows you start doubting yourself, believing you're worthless, feeling weak, when in truth you're being drained. But why do these beings need to drain? Forgotten Gnostic writings say that human demons don't feed on blood, but on vital energy. Doubt is the chalice, and guilt is the wine from which they drink. It claimed a manuscript burned by the Inquisition. They come close, plant the seed of guilt, and then harvest your strength. And here comes the first question. Echoing like poison, how many times have you felt someone draining you and dismissed it as nothing but exhaustion? The first sign, then, is not visible on the face. It's felt in the heart. When you leave a person and feel your energy stolen, your light dimmed, your faith evaporating, you're not standing before a friend. You're standing before a living portal, a human body possessed by the whisper of Lucifer. But the scariest part isn't recognizing the pattern. The scariest part is realizing that, more often than not, this being isn't far away. It's a father, a mother, a partner, someone who touches your life every single day. If invisible manipulation is the first sign, then what is the second? What if the next sign is not in the words, but in the eyes? Eyes capable of revealing a presence that does not belong to this world? What do you think about this? Share your thoughts in the comments. The eyes don't lie, because sometimes they're no longer theirs. There's something in the eyes that can never be hidden. In ancient occult traditions, it was said that the soul of a man lives in the light of his gaze. But when that light turns cold, empty, lifeless, perhaps you're no longer looking at a human soul. The second sign of a human demon is the gaze that doesn't belong to this world. It's not about color nor shape. It's about the feeling it creates. You speak and sense your words have nowhere to land. It's like talking to a dark mirror. Desert monks once called it the reflection of the abyss. When the soul is no longer seen in the other's eyes, but only a hungry shadow staring back. And have you ever wondered why? When looking into certain eyes, your body shivers, as if a hidden presence were watching you from behind the flesh. That shiver is no coincidence. Apocryphal texts from Nag Hammadi describe the human demon as a guest. It uses the body as a house but peers through the same pair of eyes. Those who have lived this experience know there's no rational explanation. It's an unease that seeps into the skin, a nameless fear, as if Lucifer himself, through that body, were probing your deepest weaknesses. And here rises another forbidden question. How many times have you turned your eyes away from someone because you couldn't bear to face that emptiness? The gaze of the human demon doesn't seduce. It drains, it paralyzes. It turns any place into an invisible prison. But if this is the second sign, there's something far more dangerous still. Something not seen in the eyes, but heard like poison. Because the third sign isn't just energy, nor just vision. It is the twisted word. And what if every word spoken by such a being was, in truth, a hidden spell disguised as ordinary conversation? If this struck you, like this video to help spread the revelation. Not every word is born from the mouth. Some come straight from the abyss. Words have always been a spiritual weapon. In Genesis, God creates through the Word. In the Gospel, Christ is called the living Word. But what happens when the Word is corrupted? The third sign of a human demon is the distorted word. They speak, and every sentence carries hidden poison. They don't insult directly, or they insinuate. They don't attack head-on. They slowly erode your trust. The tone, the silence, the irony, everything calculated to wound without leaving visible scars. In the apocryphal scrolls of the Gospel of Philip, there is a warning: evil hides in gentle words, but every syllable is an invisible chain. Those who live with such a being notice you begin believing subtle compliments and end crushed by disguised criticism. One day you hear, "I only want what's best for you." But when you lie down at night, you feel small, doubting your own worth. That is the spell, not a charm of fire, but a psychological curse planted word by word. And if the Bible was written to set us free, then the human demon writes, "Every day your personal prison." Think, how many times have you walked away from a dream, a decision, or an opportunity, only because someone planted doubt inside you? That person may not have been merely cruel. They could have been a hidden servant wielding the tongue as a blade. The third sign is dangerous because it infiltrates the invisible. Manipulation can be noticed. The gaze can be avoided, but the word enters. It stays in the mind, repeats itself, echoing like a curse. And if you think this is already the worst, know this: there is a sign even more devastating. Because the fourth does not speak. It does not stare. It does not manipulate with words. It acts silently and mercilessly, breaking the very bonds that should protect you. What if the next sign could destroy entire families without ever raising its voice? Subscribe. What comes next is even darker. Demons don't break chains of iron. They break bonds of blood. There's an unsettling truth when a human demon enters your life. They never come only for you. The fourth sign is the destruction of bonds. These are not ordinary quarrels, but ruptures that feel inevitable, as if something greater were pulling the strings behind them. In the manuscripts of the Qumran community, a fragmented passage describes the children of darkness. They sow division among brothers, raise walls where there was unity, and corrupt the peace of the righteous. Ancient words, still echoing today. A human demon doesn't shout. They plant suggestions, lies, insinuations, a whisper in the right ear, at the wrong time, and suddenly a marriage breaks. A friendship dissolves, a family falls apart. The bond doesn't break by chance, it is cut. And have you noticed how some people seem to carry chaos wherever they go? Relationships collapse, groups fracture, places unravel. It's not coincidence. It's a pattern, a signature, because the human demon carries within them the same mission as Lucifer: to separate, to divide in order to weaken, to break in order to rule. If God creates unity, they create fragments. And every fragment is easier to control. And here comes the disturbing question: what if that distance you thought was natural was in truth provoked by someone who was never merely human? The fourth sign is devastating because it doesn't strike only you. It destroys the very foundations of your life. And when everything is divided, you find yourself alone, vulnerable, ready to be consumed. But there is something even worse, because the fifth sign doesn't just destroy external bonds, it strikes within. It doesn't just drain your energy or your trust. It infiltrates the most intimate part of you, your own faith. And what if the final sign was the loss of the very thing that keeps you standing? Your connection to the divine? Share this with someone who needs to see what has been hidden. When a human demon wins, they don't steal your life, they steal your faith. Among all the signs, this is the most dangerous, because it doesn't just wound relationships, it doesn't just break bonds, it doesn't just corrupt memories. The fifth sign is the corrosion of faith. Human demons don't simply want you to suffer. They want you to stop believing, to doubt the sacred, to look at the heavens and see only silence. In forgotten gospels, like the Gospel of Thomas, there are passages where Christ warns, "The one who takes away his brother's hope from above commits the greatest of spiritual crimes." That is exactly what they do. One day you believed, you prayed, you dreamed. The next, you wonder if God ever heard you at all. Faith doesn't vanish in a single moment. It rots like wood left out in the weather. First small doubts, then deeper cracks, until one day, what once held your soul together no longer exists. And what if everything you considered sacred was mocked by someone close? until you began to think you were insane for believing. This is the final strike, because when you lose faith, you lose your compass. You're left without direction, without light, without a shield. That's when they win, not by force, but by absence. For a man without faith is only flesh ready to be used. But here lies a truth few know. These 5 signs are not just random behaviors. They form a hidden ritual. Each sign is a step, each step a mark. And when all 5 are complete, the human demon is no longer just a guest. They become a portal. And what if I told you that behind these signs lies a spiritual conspiracy kept in secret since ancient times? What if human demons were only the tip of something greater? A hidden project of Lucifer to turn the earth into his own reflection. Have you ever wondered about this? Share your thoughts in the comments. What if the 5 signs were not just symptoms, but spiritual marks of possession? The signs don't repeat by accident. Manipulation, the empty gaze, the twisted word, the breaking of bonds, and the corrosion of faith. Together, they form what ancient occultists called the mark of the shadow, an invisible seal that turns a human into a permanent channel for the forces of Lucifer. In the Ethiopian manuscripts of the Book of Enoch, there is a forgotten passage. The fallen did not enter by force, but dwelt in the sons of men who had already opened their doors. That door is the signs. Each time one appears, the door opens wider, and when all 5 manifest, there is no turning back. The human ceases to be human. But those who uncovered this truth paid dearly. During the Middle Ages, certain monks who studied the behavior of the possessed were accused of heresy and burned, not because they were wrong, but because they were too right. The church feared people realizing that demons were not only in hell, they were in neighbors, in leaders, in kings. And have you ever wondered if historical figures who changed the course of the world were, in fact, human demons marked by these 5 signs? This truth is terrifying because it suggests we are not dealing with exceptions, but with an ongoing project, a planned infiltration, a silent army spread everywhere, feeding on our downfalls. The 6th step, then, is not a new sign. It is a revelation. The signs are the signature, proof that the body no longer belongs to itself. It is a seal, a mark of alliance. But if this is true, we must face the question no one dares to ask: who places this mark? And for what purpose? What if the 5 signs were only preparation for a greater ritual, a blood pact between Lucifer and the chosen humans? Like this, if any part of this made you feel uneasy. What if those who seem to act alone are in fact obeying Lucifer's secret network? What the forbidden texts called the marked were not just scattered individuals. They were connected. They formed a silent, organized network, infiltrated into strategic places. Renaissance occultists once called it the Invisible Council. Forgotten accounts describe secret gatherings, not in temples or caves, but in palace halls, political chambers, even within monasteries. What united them was neither religion nor human power. It was the mark. The 5 signs served as spiritual credentials. And have you noticed how certain people, even without knowing each other, seem to repeat the same patterns, the same phrases, the same actions, the same devastating effects? It's as if they were threads of the same web. That web is not natural. It is engineered. Apocryphal documents mention that Lucifer does not rule through pure chaos, but through hidden order. He imitates the celestial hierarchy. If God has angels and archangels, Lucifer has human demons, each assigned to a role. Some drain energy, others destroy families. Others corrode the faith of entire communities. But those who dared to reveal this were always silenced. Think about it. Why did certain writings vanish? Why were entire libraries burned? What if it wasn't just religious intolerance, but the fear of exposing that? Lucifer's servants were already inside the church itself. This invisible council is not a metaphor, it is structure. It is strategy. It is the earthly reflection of the fallen kingdom. And perhaps you've already crossed paths with one of them without even realizing it. A teacher, a politician, a spiritual leader, even a childhood friend. But here comes the disturbing question: how do they recognize each other? If the world believes they are just ordinary humans, what if the answer lies in symbols hidden in plain sight, repeated for centuries, yet never understood as they were meant to be? Subscribe. The truth doesn't stop here. What if the symbols you see every day were actually secret signs of human demons? Human demons don't live in complete darkness. They communicate. They recognize one another, but not through words, not through names. They use symbols, painted on walls, carved into rings, hidden in seemingly innocent gestures. Symbols that have crossed centuries: the all-seeing eye, the coiled serpent, the inverted star, the sign of two crossed hands. Always repeated, always present, yet almost never questioned. Templar manuscripts preserved in secrecy speak of the marks of passage, signs used to identify those who had already received the mark of the 5 seals. It was the way to separate the initiated from the ordinary. To outsiders, they were just drawings. To them, it was the password. And have you noticed how certain leaders, artists, politicians, and even religious preachers repeat the same symbols, the same gestures, the same visual patterns? Is it all just coincidence? Or is it their way of showing loyalty to the same master? In the Middle Ages, monks warned that hidden images were carved even into cathedrals. Demons sculpted in stained glass, eyes concealed in columns, hybrid creatures in sacred portals. Were these just decorations, or silent messages proving that the invisible council had infiltrated even the very walls of faith? These symbols are like keys, recognized only by those with eyes to see, ignored by the rest of humanity, who wander distracted, unaware they live among signs of a hidden spiritual war. But here comes the unsettling question. What if these symbols weren't just for identification, but also for invocation? What if every hidden symbol was in truth an open door, allowing something greater to cross into the human body, tag someone who would dare watch until the very end? What if every hidden symbol wasn't just a drawing, but an open door to Lucifer? Symbols are far from harmless. They don't just identify the marked servants. They connect. Every time they're carved, displayed, or repeated, they act as gateways, cracks opening, between the human world and the realm where the Prince of Darkness dwells. In the Book of Jubilees, a text banned from the official tradition, there's a disturbing passage. The children of darkness mark the doors of their houses, and through them the fallen angel enters and dwells. The mark wasn't just a sign, it was an invitation, a contract. This could explain why certain places carry such a heavy atmosphere. Impossible to rationalize. Castles, temples, political buildings, even public squares. Many are covered in symbols. Symbols everyone sees, yet almost no one understands. Perhaps that's why so many centers of power seem wrapped in spiritual decay. Have you ever felt a chill walking past a place that looked ordinary? Maybe it wasn't just your imagination. Maybe you were crossing one of these invisible portals. The danger of these portals is that they don't rely only on the faith of those who see them. They work silently, draining, connecting, allowing the shadow to manifest more strongly each time. And if that's true, then the invisible council isn't just acting. It's laying the groundwork. Groundwork for what? For whom? The answer is the most forbidden of all. These portals aren't just channels of energy. They're rehearsals, preparations so that Lucifer won't have to manifest only in symbols, glances, or distorted words, but in something far greater. What if all these signs, marks, and gateways are preparing Earth for the coming of Lucifer in flesh and blood? If this disturbed you, that was the point. Leave a comment. What if everything you believe was normal, was actually an ancient plan in motion? The signs, the marks, the symbols, the invisible council, all converge toward a dark purpose. Every human demon, every gesture, every twisted word, every broken bond, every corrosion of faith, every symbol displayed or hidden, all form a living map. A map pointing to the same destination, the direct presence of Lucifer on earth. In the apocryphal texts of the Book of Enoch, there is a warning that was silenced. When the children of darkness complete their work, the fallen prince will walk among men without them knowing. Today, we understand that the 5 signs were not isolated symptoms, but steps of preparation. Every marked human, every portal opened, every repeated symbol, these are steps in a plan crafted since the beginning of time. And what if the evil you sense around certain people is no accident? What if manipulation, the empty gaze, the twisted words, the breaking of bonds, and the corrosion of faith are just the tip of the iceberg? Every subtle act, every seemingly innocent gesture, every decorative symbol carries energy, opens doors, and connects bodies and souls to an invisible network, hidden from most, but perfectly visible to those who walk in the shadows. The truth is unsettling because it reveals something humanity prefers to ignore. We are not dealing merely with corrupted individuals, but with a spiritual machine, a hidden hierarchy carefully orchestrated, keeping the world off balance and preparing the stage for an awakening no one asked for. Yet that approaches inevitably. And here comes the final provocation, the question that sums up the entire series. If human demons are only drafts, and the portals just rehearsals, what would happen if Lucifer decided to cross over for good? What remains for us then is a choice: to ignore the signs, close our eyes, and keep walking as if nothing is happening, or to awaken, see the marks, the portals, the symbols, and recognize who truly stands beside us and who was sent to bring us down. The end is not a conclusion, it is a call, a warning, an invitation to look beyond the veil. Question what you accept as normal, and ask yourself if this is the truth. Why are we still walking with our eyes closed? The plan is complete, but the choice of how to respond is still yours. What if all of this is real? Share your truth below.